For a lot of pilots, simply flying is a joy.
To those roads.
For other pilots, aerobatics may be their definition of fun. If you get two pilots together, they may decide flying formation is the only way to go. But if you combine three friends who want to fly aerobatics and in formation, well, chances are you're going to end up with an airshow team. The Aerostars aerobatic team, named for their three Russian-designed, Romanian-built Yak-52 TWs, have been flying together at airshows for more than 11 years. Leading the team is former military pilot Harvey Meek. As the lead pilot not only in formation, but also through aerobatics, Harvey sets the bar and leads his wingmen safely through every maneuver.
Well, my job is to give the wingman a nice, steady, stable platform and to manage the energy of the formation so that the maneuvers are the same every time and so that they have enough excess power to stay in position.
Flying on Harvey's left wing is Paul Hornick. And on his right is David Monroe. It's up to Paul and Dave to actually maintain their formation with the lead, and without them, Harvey would simply be flying a solo show.
Well, the job of the wingman is really to give context to the formation in general. For me, as number 2 in the formation, I set the distance, and then Dave matches the positioning. So as number 3, Dave, he claims he has the toughest job.
I do, because I'm constantly working very, very hard to make him look good. That's a difficult task.
To keep their formation, Paul and Dave visualize certain lines between their aircraft and Harvey's. Using these lines, they maintain three-dimensional separation dependent on the formation they're in.
You know, formation's all about geometry. It's basically about mathematics. If lead is flying a circle or a loop in the sky, our loop has to be just slightly smaller than his loop, and that keeps us in position. That provides us the power, and by using geometry, a smaller circle versus a larger circle keeps us in position, so we'll step up. It's not much, but just a few feet. As far as positioning on the airplane, it's kind of like flying an ILS, an instrument approach. You know, you put the two needles there and you fly it all the way to the runway. Well, formation aerobatics is much the same way. When you're in position, there's key points on the airplane that you just keep there all the time, and you're always constantly working to keep those points.
What we use is the inboard trailing edge of the aileron from Harvey's airplane, and we superimpose that, a straight line between our head, our eyes, and his forward canopy bow on his windscreen. If we're on that, that's called the bearing line. Then what we do is we maintain that bearing line and put the leading edge of our wing just behind his horizontal stabilizer. So that gives us the how far up the bearing line to go. If we're forward of the bearing line, that means we're acute. If we're behind the bearing line, that's called suck. And we try to always maintain a position on that bearing line and close enough in on the bearing line where our wingtip is just behind his horizontal stabilizer.
In formation flying, it's kind of funny because the closer you are to each other, the easier it is. The further away, the harder it is.
Today, the Aerostars fly an extremely tight formation through a variety of different maneuvers. But three people can't just jump into three airplanes and go out and do this sort of aerobatics. It took the team a lot of training to get to this point and constant training to maintain it. As they flew more and more together, Paul and Dave tightened up what's called the error box.
The error box is the amount of air that the wingmen use while they're maintaining position. Initially, when a brand new wingman is learning how to fly formation, the error box is enormous. It's 1 or 2 airplane wingspans. As they gain an experience, the error box will shrink, and where Dave and Paul are right now, their error box is probably 4 to 6 square inches. Tiny. As we say, we started crawling, walking, and then running.
As you'd expect, prior to every show, the Aerostars brief as a team and go over the day's flight. Due to the concentration that's required to fly this type of close formation aerobatics, The Aerostars try to maintain a sterile period prior to their flight to get focused and get their game faces on.
When you're in the airplane, all other distractions go away. It has to be that way. The consequences of not having your head in the game, is unspeakable. Typically, about an hour before we're set to perform, we try and get into a quiet place and just sit down and relax. Right before we're going to jump in the airplanes, we'll walk the show.
And you'll see us, visualizing what we're doing with the airplane while we're in formation. We will walk in formation and do a loop in formation, do a barrel roll in formation. Everything is, all the call outs by Harvey and the wingmen are all made. 2's in, lead roll, lead rolling, 2 and 3 are in. Aerostars split now, Aerostars roll now. All the verbiage is done by all 3 of us in time as we're walking about, and all that helps you visualize in your mind what you're doing prior to actually going in the airplane and doing it.
The Aerostars performance itself is 17 minutes long and is in front of the crowd for almost the entire show as the team goes from one maneuver to the next.
I like the downward bombers, the opening maneuver. It's dynamic, it's exciting, there's a lot of stuff to see for the audience. The other one I like is what's called the flip and the flop. That's where Paul and I are doing rolls in the line of stern position. Very challenging maneuver, and we always feel good when we nail it.
Now, Dave and Paul spoke earlier of how you maintain formation in theory, but actually doing this while performing an aerobatic maneuver is not so easy.
Flying abreast is most difficult because you have to cock your neck 90 degrees to lead. So the separation between wings is usually about 3 to 4 feet. The most important thing it will be that lead flies a perfect loop, which makes it very easy for us. If lead starts drifting left or right as he's coming over, that makes our airs much larger and we're moving in and out of position much more drastically, and you can see that from the ground.
If Harvey displaces his aircraft left or right with rudder, by the time Dave or I notice it, he's moved several feet before we can react, whereas when you're in Vic, it's much easier because you're able to triangulate off lead's airplane, position changes and movement. Whereas when you're line abreast, you're not able to do that triangulation. Plus, it's hard for Dave to tell where I am in relation to Harvey because Harvey's in the way.
The Aerostars may initially strike people as being similar to other formation teams flying vintage warbirds like the T-6. While the Yak-52 was and still is being used as a military trainer, the aircraft that Harvey, Paul, and Dave fly are all newer. And with the Yak's impressive aerobatic capabilities and inverted fuel system, these aircraft certainly enable an impressive performance.
The airplanes that we fly are new airplanes. They're fairly new. Mine is the oldest, which is a 2001. The others are 2002s or 3s. And we brought them all over from Romania, brand new in a crate on a ship.
And the beauty of these airframes are nobody else has ever flown them. They weren't subjected to rolling G by students. There's not 50 years of corrosion that's hidden away somewhere. With what we're doing, we need to make sure that everything is in the best possible condition. You couldn't do our show in a T6 or a T-34 or an airframe like that. We still have the warbird feel, but we're able to showcase the inverted capability of the airframe, and we're able to pull the 6.5, 7G and not worry about the wings falling off.